Okay, shalom everybody. Shalom, shalom. My name is Akiva. Just a thumbs up if you guys can hear me. We get the thumbs up all around. Very cool. Okay, so great to be here. I am live from Israel, which means it's 1:03 here in the morning. So, which is fine. I'm a late night person. I'm also an early morning person just because I'm a parent and a worker. So those two worlds collide sometimes, but it makes life more interesting and exciting. But hold on one second. Okay, great. So yeah, I'm really excited about this class. I really believe that what we're going to talk about today with those who are here live on the Zoom or watching via Facebook Live or watching this recorded or maybe listening to the podcast can really enhance this time of the year for us and can really bring even more meaning and deeper connection to this month that we're in and what comes after. Okay, so I have a bunch of things I'd like to share. Okay, and Emma is going to help me to share my PowerPoint with you all, as I have some sources that I'd like to kind of guide us through. So we'll use those sources to guide us through this learning together. All right, know that there is much more out there than I'm sharing here. Okay, with our time that we have a good amount of time together, but within the time, there's only enough time to share certain sources. But I think the sources that I chose really help to kind of frame the conversation and the discussion that we're having here. But again, like anything in Judaism, because there's a million things to say about anything in Judaism, there's always so much more. All right, and I invite anyone listening or watching right now to feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or want to know more sources. Okay. In fact, I'll even put in the chat. I don't know if I can do that right now. Can I do that? I don't think so. Oh, I could. I'm just going to put my email address in the chat here. And if anybody wants to be in touch, feel free. It's very easy to remember. It's Akiva Gersh at yahoo.com. Yes, I do have Yahoo. I'm not sure if it got sent, though, I'll be honest with you. Oh, it did. Okay, good. All right. So that's there. So whether you're in the Zoom or you're on another platform, Akiva Gersh at yahoo.com, you can always be in touch with me personally to ask more questions or to request more sources, as again, there are many of them. But yeah, so this class is called Realigning Our Food Choices with Jewish Values. Okay, and just the use of the word realigning already puts us into the mode of this time of the year that we're in right now. Okay, on some level, you know, we're mid-year, or we're close to mid-year in the Jewish calendar. But on another level, depending on how you count things, as we'll see very soon with our first source, we're at the very end of the year. Okay, and so with that in mind, I wanted to start with a Mishnah to get this conversation and learning started. And it's a Mishnah, it's the very first Mishnah in the tractate called Rosh Hashanah. Okay, and we're used to Rosh Hashanah. Rosh is head, Hashanah means year, Rosh Hashanah means head of the year, beginning of the year. Right? In Rosh Hashanah, it's Jewish New Year's Day. Right? We're all, you know, very familiar with that. But this Mishnah is very, very interesting and brings up something that some people are not familiar with. And let's just read through it and let's see what that is. And so the Mishnah says there are 4 New Years. Okay, so Judaism actually has 4 New Year's days, not just 1, but 4. Right? Let's see what they are. On the first of Nisan, right, the month that Passover happens in, on the first day of Nisan, right? Passover starts on the 15th of Nisan. So 2 weeks before that, on the first of Nisan, is the New Year for kings and for the festivals. All right, because Nisan is looked at as the first month. Right? The Torah says that Nisan is the first month. The month that we're in right now is the 6th month. Right? So Nisan is like the beginning of the calendar. It's also for kings when, you know, they kind of give a time frame for when they were ruling, when we had kings in the Jewish world. And the first of Elul, which was just the other day, is the New Year for animal tithes. Right, Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon say on the first of Tishrei. So there's a machloket, there's a disagreement here. Okay, that's a whole other topic, right? This New Year for animal ties with many people today in the Jewish animal welfare world, um, um, led by Richard Schwartz, who many of you might know, really trying to bring back this consciousness of this New Year for animal ties. I'm not going to get into the details right now because they are numerous, but really trying to bring this day back into the Jewish consciousness as a day to think about compassion for animals and what we're doing to animals today and how our actions, our everyday actions, our everyday seemingly simple and neutral and innocent actions are having very major impacts, negative impacts, unfortunately, on animals around the world. All right, that's not the original intention of this day, but that's something that people are trying to reframe this day as, in a way that Tu B'Shvat was reframed in modern day times, which actually gets mentioned in this Mishnah as well. So let's continue with the Mishnah. On the first of Tishrei is the New Year for years, for sabbatical years and jubilee years, for planting and for vegetables. Again, there's lots of details here I'm not going to go into, but that's Rosh Hashanah. Okay, the first of Tishrei is the first day of the next month. That's Rosh Hashanah. And that's how we learned about it. It's one of the 4 New Year's days in Judaism, in the Jewish tradition. And then this Mishnah ends, right, on the first of Shvat is the New Year's for the trees, in accordance with the statement of Beit Shammai. Beit Hillel says on the 15th, and that's Tu B'Shvat. Right, we learn about Tu B'Shvat from this Mishnah, right, where this Mishnah teaches us about Tu B'Shvat. Again, that's a whole other topic. But why am I bringing up this Mishnah? To show us that, first of all, where Rosh Hashanah comes from, okay, and to show us that there is this idea in Judaism that there's more than just one Rosh Hashanah in the year, and that there's 4 of them for various different reasons, okay? But we right now, of course, we're getting ready for the Rosh Hashanah, the one that is on the first day of Tishrei that gets mentioned in this Mishnah. And according to this Mishnah, right, what do we learn from it? It says that Rosh Hashanah, the one that we know, the first day of Tishrei, is the New Year for the years, right? The counting of the years, all right? For the sabbatical years, which we're just coming to an end in right now, in the Jubilee years, which we don't observe anymore for various reasons, but also for planting and for vegetables. That has to do with Truma and Meiser and other agricultural laws. Let's go to the next slide, though, to learn a little bit more about what this time of the year is about. All right, so first of all, right, you can go back to that picture. I want to hang out on that picture just a little bit, okay? And I just want to see, that I have, I just realized, okay, so I'll just say it out loud, that's fine. I wanted to, with this great picture of this person blowing the shofar on the screen, I just want to go a little bit deeper into our understanding of Rosh Hashanah, the one coming up very soon. It actually says it in the very next Mishnah. I thought I shared it here in this PowerPoint, but apparently I didn't, but I'll just say it out loud. The next Mishnah, right after this first one that we learned, talks about, so what is this Rosh Hashanah? Like, what happens on this Rosh Hashanah, on the first day of Tishrei, right? Or at least one of the Mishnahs that comes right after this Mishnah that we learned talks about this. And it's so interesting. What does it say? What does it say? It says on the first of Tishrei, and in the first of Tishrei, Kol Ba'alei Olam, come before God. All the people of the world come before God, right? First of all, it's interesting, I think, to note that it doesn't say all the Jewish people. It says all the people. All the people of the world come before God. Now, we could have a class literally just on that line, all right? But I'll just say a couple of quick thoughts about it, and then we'll move on with it, right, and build upon it. First of all, I love that line because it really shows a universal aspect of Rosh Hashanah. Right, that Judaism is so Jewish. It's a funny thing to say, but Judaism is so Jewish. It's about the Jewish people and about the Jewish traditions and about Jewish history, about Jewish values and the Jewish vision for the future. Right, but there is, and I think I can say obviously, so many universal aspects to the Jewish tradition and to Jewish customs and to Jewish beliefs. And we see this in Rosh Hashanah, one of our most important days, one of our holiest days. Right, what does it say? It doesn't say the Jewish people go before God. It says all the people of the world. Now, what does that mean, though, to even go before God? So again, in other sources and other texts that we're not going to bring up right now, I'll just kind of, summarize with my own words. It says that every single person, for just a moment, comes before God and is quote unquote judged. But what does that even mean? Right? What does it mean to be judged by God? It's not this typical, like we're standing in a courtroom in front of a judge wearing this robe and we're really scared and we're like shaking in our boots and like, oh my God, like what is the judge going to do or say? Right? We learn specifically according to the Hasidic understanding of things in Judaism, which usually comes with much more love and compassion. And you're saying that we're standing in front of God and God is seeing us for who we are, with all of our incredible parts and all of our broken parts, and all those things that we did amazing this past year, and all those things we didn't do that were so amazing. And we're showing up in front of God on the first day of Tishrei, and God's seeing it all. But even deeper than that, right? Because God sees it all the time, right? We don't have to quote unquote stand in front of God or wait till the first day of Tishrei for God to see anything, right? What's really happening is by standing in front of God, we're really seeing ourselves. God is giving us this incredible opportunity and moment and experience of being seen in a, can we say such a thing, in a deeper way by God, so that we see ourselves deeper, right? That we become more aware, even hyper aware of our own selves in a way that we as human beings don't normally do throughout the year and maybe never do throughout the year. So really what's happening on Rosh Hashanah on a spiritual level, according to the Jewish thought, is that we are having this awareness moment of ourselves, who we are, who we've been, what we've done, what we haven't done, what we've done good, what we've broken. And that's incredible. Forget the judgment aspect for a second. It's this hyper aware moment. So it's like a check-in. Like where are we holding so far? Where are we in our process? Where are we in our personal journey in this world? Right? What have we accomplished and what do we still have left to accomplish? Right? What have we fixed and what is still broken? And maybe what have we broken? Right? And why do I share any of this? On a class that has to do with realigning our food choices with Jewish values. Well, I hope that becomes really clear because we're going to build on this one step at a time. Right, so of course, the picture that we're seeing is a picture of a shofar, and this time of the year is how do we say this? Symbolized by the shofar. I've been living in Israel for 18 years, so as I speak more Hebrew, my English gets a little worse. So sometimes I have to think a little bit for the English words. But really, the shofar is such a symbol for not only Rosh Hashanah, of course, Rosh Hashanah, right? Rosh Hashanah is like, the Yom Teruah, it's the day of the shofar blast. But according to Jewish tradition, right, it extends to the entire month before. We can now go to the next slide, please, Emma. And here, over the next 4 slides, I just brought in some different sources that have to do with what's going on in this time of the year. Again, not only Rosh Hashanah, right? Jews are really into preparation, right? I've said this to my students like a million times, like it's not enough to like jump into Shabbat and start keeping Shabbat and like, okay, it's Shabbat now. No, we try to ease into it. We light candles, a few minutes before Shabbat. If we have more time, we already start to calm our nervous system and our spiritual nervous system and really make, time and space to get ready for this unbelievable transition, which is the entry into Shabbat, right? And I think the greatest example in Judaism of preparing for what's to come is the entire month before Rosh Hashanah, which is the month that we're in now. We just started the other day, the month of Elul, right? It's not enough to just show up on Rosh Hashanah and say, hey, here I am. It's like, no, if we're going to be standing before God, and if God is going to give us this unbelievable opportunity that we just spoke about before of seeing ourselves in a way that we never see ourselves throughout the whole year, I want to get ready for that moment. That's like a big moment, right? And we are encouraged by our tradition to use the entire month of Elul exactly for that, right? And so I just want to see a few different sources that really talks about that. This one is from Chaye Adam, which is a book of Jewish law, okay? And it says in this book, it says each person is obligated to prepare themselves, as we were saying before, with tshuva. Now, tshuva typically means repentance, but it goes much deeper than that, but we'll wait to go to the deeper meaning. For now, let's just hold on to the simple meaning, which is repentance, right? I messed up, I'm repentant. But again, we're going to go much deeper than that. Each person is obligated to prepare themselves with tshuva and prayer for 30 days prior to the day that they enter into judgment before God and Rosh Hashanah, like we said. And they should give their entire heart only to the service of God. I've read in various books that in the past, before we, our world became so busy and so distracting and so full of so many things to do, that Elul for the Jewish people literally was like a month off. Not spiritually, but like it's very much on spiritually, but it's like a month off from all those things that we normally do so that we can intensely and deeply and intimately get into this time of the year and use this time of the year, this month of Elul, to prepare for Rosh Hashanah. Nowadays, we try to like catch a few minutes here and a few minutes there. We try to do the best we can because, WhatsApp is dinging and emails are rolling and all kinds of other things we have to do, right? This verse goes on and says, and they alluded to this with the verse, Ani ledodi v'dodi li, which we'll talk about. Right? I, my beloved, as my beloved is mine. From the book from the Hebrew Bible, Shir Shirim, Song of Songs, which is an acronym for Elul. Again, as we'll talk about. Therefore, one should increase one's tshuva, prayer, and charity throughout the month. All right, and that's what we're guided to do. Right, three things, and we say this in the Rosh Hashanah prayers and the Yom Kippur prayers. Right, these three powerful things: tshuva, tefillah, tzedakah. Tshuva, repentance, prayer, and charity are our three tools of this month to make incredible changes and to make an incredible impact and influence on our lives today and our lives in the future. Okay. We can go to the next source, please. The next slide. Okay. So let's look at this next one. This is also from a book of Jewish law. Right? Jewish law is not always only technical. This is from the Torah. The Bala Torim or Chaim is one of the books of the Shulchan Aruch, written about 500 years ago in the city of Tzfat in Israel. And so the Torah, commenting on the Shulchan Aruch and the halacha of blowing shofar, right, says the sages enacted the blowing of the shofar on Rosh Chodesh Elul every year, and the entire month. At first, it was only Rosh Chodesh Elul, the first day of Elul, and then later it was the entire month, like we do today, to warn. It's a powerful word, to warn Israel to repent. Again, we're still staying with that word repent, right, for the word tshuva. As it says in this quote, this famous line is quoted from Amos, from the prophet Amos. If a shofar is blown in the city, will the people not quake? Such a powerful line. If a shofar is blown in the city, will the people not quake? Right? Every year that we come to Elul, I'm really just so impressed with our tradition that we have this deep belief that the sound of the shofar has the ability to affect us and impact us and change us as people, to impact us spiritually. That sound, and specifically the sound of the shofar, has an ability to wake me up. Right? And that's really one of the main aspects of the shofar. And the whole month of Elul that we're blowing shofar in every single day, except for Shabbat and except for the day before Rosh Hashanah. It's wake-up time. Elul is wake-up time. Right? Maybe we've been sleeping the whole year. We're sleeping a little bit too much. Not really aware enough of ourselves and our actions and the impact of our actions on others and the world and, of course, animals. It's a time to remember. And the shofar is a tool, is a vessel to remembering. Right? The shofar helps our memory to remember. Oh, right. There's something I'm supposed to do in this world. There's a reason I was born into this world. There's a reason the world was created. There's a reason we're here, right? There's a reason I am me, right? So this idea of waking up and remembering and looking at ourselves, being honest with ourselves, doing a check-in. Again, these are things we can do all year round, but unfortunately, so often we don't, or we don't do it enough. And Elul is this concentrated time, right, to do it more than any other time of the year, okay? And the shofar is really this tool and the symbol for that. We can go to the next slide, please. Maimonides, okay, the Rambam. in his Mishnah Torah, one of the most famous rabbis of all time. He speaks about what we just said. He says in his own work, again, of Jewish law, he says, get up, you who sleep from your sleep, and you who have dozed off, wake up from your slumber. Search your deeds, return in repentance, and remember your Creator. Those who have forgotten the truth amid the foolishness of worldly pursuits and who waste their years in meaningless things that cannot truly profit or save you, care for your souls, improve your ways and your actions. Let every one of you abandon their wicked way or any intention which is not good. So he's like really spelling it out for us. Maimonides is really, really saying it in this beautiful and very strong language. This is wake up time, right? This is the time to wake up. We've dozed off. Wake up and use this time properly. Use this time wisely. This is Elul. This is Elul. All right, we can go to the next slide, please. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, who left the world just in recent years, has this beautiful one-liner about the shofar, right? In modern day language, I just really love and I want to share. He says the shofar is the satellite navigation system of the soul, reminding us of our ultimate destination, telling us how far we've yet to go. Wow. When we hear the shofar in Elul, and especially in Rosh Hashanah, what is it telling us? Right? It's telling us, hey, Akiva, you got somewhere to get to. You have something to accomplish in this world. There is an ultimate destination, right? You're doing so good already. Kol hakavod, good job. But you know what? There's still what to do. Keep going, right? You veered a little bit off to the side. Come on back to the center. Right? It's this navigation system, and that's really again what's happening in Elul and in Rosh Hashanah, right? It's this kind of like the title is talking about. It's this realignment. Sometimes we have to bring our cars in for a service, realign the wheels, I'm like veering off to the right. It's not safe. It's not safe. It's not safe when we veer off. And this time of the year is literally a spiritual realignment for ourselves. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you, Emma. And this is the verse that sums it all up, that one of the sources we looked at before mentioned. Ani ledodi v'dodi li. Right, this is a verse from Song of Songs, and in Hebrew, the first Hebrew letter of each of those four words spells out Elul. Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed. It's an acronym for Elul. And it sums up so much of what Elul is all about. I am to my beloved as my beloved is to me. We're going to take this verse, use this verse to go a little bit deeper now in what we're saying, and eventually relate it to our food choices. I am to my beloved as my beloved is to me. When I read that line, when I hear that line, when I say the line, what do I hear in it? I hear the idea of relationships. I am to my beloved as my beloved is to me. Right? Often this is framed in the context of a relationship, right? Two people who are in a relationship or a human in relationship with God. I am to my beloved as my beloved is to me. I'm having a relationship with someone, or I'm having a relationship with God, or both, right? And really this one simple line really helps us to realize that when we're doing this work of waking up and of remembering and of trying to become better people, repenting, right? Seeing what I've done so far and what I haven't done so far, seeing the good I've done and not so good. Really, so much of what we are looking at when we get into that mindset, to that frame of mind, and what we should be looking at is our relationships. All the different kinds of relationships we have. And we have so many different kinds of relationships in our lives. I mean, really, I think we could literally frame our entire lives just in relationships. There's first my relationship with myself, right? There's my relationship with myself. Like, who am I? What am I doing? What do I think about myself? What are my thoughts about myself? Right? Do I love myself? Do I pat myself on the back? Do I encourage myself? Or do I break myself down? So many things. Again, that's a world into itself. What is my relationship with myself? Moving on from there, what's my relationship with other people? My family members, my friends, my community, my people, my country, my nation, and then, of course, the world. I mean, that's a lot of relationships right there, right? But then we could go even beyond that. What are my relationships with the natural non-human world? Right? And in this modern day world of ours, where most people don't have animals like people used to in the past with farms and farm animals and close connections to animals, people have pets today, so that's still some kind of connection, but still different. It's a little harder to answer that question. What's my relationship with non-human creation? What's my relationship with non-human creatures? What's my relationship with the natural world? And what's my relationship with all these animals that Hashem put in this world, that God put in this world? Right? That's another huge relationship. Whether or not I even see these animals or I see these places that exist, right? Because, talking about relationships, we know that today, due to our modern day industrialized and globalized reality and world that we've created, we no longer just impact our very local environment. We impact the global environment based off of our everyday choices. And I'll use that phrase again that I used before, our everyday seemingly innocent and neutral choices. And there's a billion examples. I'll just give one. But know, of course, that there's so many examples. Right? I mean, I could choose this shirt that I chose to buy. Where was it made? Who made it? What were the factory conditions that it was made in? What were the dyes that were used? What chemicals were used? How did it impact the environment? How was it shipped to me? Where was it made? How long did it have to be shipped? How much fuel was used? I mean, just in 20 seconds, I just rattled off a whole bunch of things just on a simple shirt. I just wanted a shirt. But behind this one shirt, right, because it's not made out of organic cotton made by my neighbor down the street, it has had a major impact on the environment, on humans, on creatures. Let's take one piece of food that we can talk about this on, probably with all pieces of food. A banana, right? A banana is a great piece of food. It's healthy, right? Its peel can decompose. I can put it in the compost. No packaging that I have to throw away. What could be wrong with it? But if we dissect the story of a banana that somebody buys, let's say in the northeast of America, there's a lot that could go wrong with it, right? And again, you could have a whole class just about that, and you could write a whole book about that, right? But that banana, where was it grown? How was it grown? If it's not organic, how many pesticides were used? How did it affect the workers in the field that were picking those bananas? Right? How many animals died because of the pesticides and the herbicides? Right? And the chemical-based fertilizers that went on the farm, growing those bananas. And then, of course, what about the shipping? All the fuel that was used. Wow, I just wanted a banana. I just wanted to show my mom I'm eating something healthy. Well, I never realized it could be so destructive. And I don't mean to be overly negative, but this is what it means to be honest with ourselves in our world today. That our seemingly innocent and neutral choices, everyday choices, have great impacts on the world in a way that humans before us never could have imagined. Okay, so relationship. My everyday actions impact all kinds of life all around the world. Right? We see what's happening in Pakistan right now. Unbelievable. I'm sure many of you have seen the images, the flooding, the destruction. I mean, the numbers I read today were outrageous. A third of the country underwater. If I remember correctly, 500,000 homes destroyed, over 1,000 people killed. Right? This is intense. And I'm not a scientist. I don't understand the science behind all these floods, but I definitely know, and I see in the news and on social media people talking about climate change. Well, climate change didn't just happen in Pakistan, right? This is a global reality that we've all contributed to. Right? So, wow, I mean, my actions could contribute to such a horrific thing. And of course, it's not all my fault, right? I don't want to overly blame myself, but I also want to be honest with myself and say that, yes, I am partaking in what's going on in the world. And yes, I'm living in a time, in a unique time of the human story, where my little actions in my little corner of the world can actually impact people and places and animals across the world, in places I will never go to and will never see. That's the world that we live in. Okay. And let's take it now to the level of food choices. Okay. Again, the title of this class, right, being realigning our food choices with Jewish values. Why? Because this is the time to realign ourselves with Jewish values. The month of Elul, leading up to Rosh Hashanah, is the time of the year to realign ourselves in general with Jewish values in all aspects of our life, including our food choices. Why? Because food choices are one of the greatest ways that we impact the world. One of the greatest ways. What I eat, what I choose to buy in the store, what I put in my shopping cart, what I bring home, what I put on the table for me and my family has tremendous impact on the world. So if I want to realign my choices in general with Jewish values of compassion, care, concern, love, peace, justice, to name a few, then my food choices are a great place to start. They're not the only choices that I should be realigning, but they are one of the greatest choices I should be focusing on because of the direct and quick impact that they have on the world, on humans, on animals, and the environment. Everything in this world. Okay. And when we're talking about food choices, again, like we're asking ourselves questions. What am I eating? Like literally, just like, what am I eating? What am I buying? What is it? Where did it come from? How was it made? How was it grown? If it was, from a farm, from a field, what happened on that farm, in that field? And how did it impact the people working on that farm? And how did it impact the local ecosystem, the soil, the air, the waterways in that area? If it came from a factory, why is it coming from a factory? Right? What happened in that factory? What else is mixed into that food? How is it impacting my own personal health, which is also a major Jewish value? Right? Is there something better I can be eating? Right? And there are some natural food products that come out of factories. Of course, that's just our world today. I can buy a nice hearty can of really healthy organic soup. 100%. It came from a factory. So I'm not saying just because it came from a factory that it's not good or unhealthy, but still, even just knowing that the mode of production, the energy that went into it. Yeah, I have a nice can of organic soup, but how much energy went into it? What's its carbon imprint? Right? Where was it made? How far did it have to be shipped? And again, I'm not saying don't buy that organic soup in a can, but this is the time to be thoughtful and aware, hyper aware, as we said, and try as best as we can. We cannot be perfect. All throughout human history, we can never be perfect, especially today. It is almost impossible to be those perfect people that we want to be. I've had so many conversations with people, just about veganism and Judaism. Personally, I'm a vegan. Right? I eat a vegan diet and live a vegan lifestyle. Yet I know that there are things that I'm doing probably every day that kill creatures. I mean, just this morning, I was out in my garden. I was watering some plants, and I saw there was a whole line of ants going by, and the water went on them. I'm sure not every ant survived that flood, basically, that they experienced from their perspective. And I'm thinking to myself, here I am trying to live a really conscious life, and I probably just killed a dozen ants just like that in a few seconds with a few squirts of water. I didn't mean it. I didn't want it. I didn't intend it, but I did it. Right. And that's the kind of thing that is built into our life in general, but even more so in our lives today because of the modern impact that we have as a result of industrialization and globalization. All right. So what are we eating? Why are we eating it? Why am I eating the food I'm eating? And there's all kinds of reasons. It tastes good. It's yummy. It reminds me of my childhood. That commercial just got me. Or it's healthy. It's going to give me strength. It's going to give me the vitamins and the nutrients I need. Right? I care about my health, so this is why I'm eating this and not something else. Right? So really, that question of why am I eating what am I eating is such an important question to ask again any time of the year, but especially this time of the year. And not lastly, but the last question I think I'll ask specifically in this line of questions is what kind of impact do our food choices have on our health, other humans, animals, and the planet. Right? And that's really where, when we're talking about realigning our food choices with Jewish values, that's what it comes down to, right? Going back to relationships, based on this verse that's on the screen, right? How am I impacting my relationship with myself, with other humans, with animals, and with ecosystems around the world based on my food choices, right? I mean, right there, that's hours of work, hours of self-work, self-introspection, writing it down in a journal, really trying to figure that out, and then seeing what am I doing really great, what can I be doing better? And again, without, we can't be perfect, but we're trying our best to be the best people that we can be, right? And if I want to try to be the best I can be, what can I do now to help me in that process, in that goal, in that mission? Okay. So I want to move on to another part before we start wrapping up. And that is the second part of the title of this class, Jewish values. What are the Jewish values around food? Okay. What are the Jewish values around food? And we've kind of touched on some of them already, but let's just go a little bit deeper with each. And there's 4 that I've kind of identified. So we'll go to the next slide, please. One, of course, is kosher, right? I mean, look at this image, right? Just the overwhelming number of koshering organizations out there, right? In America, in Israel, and other places around the world as well. We're bombarded by kosher symbols, right? Whether we like it or not, right? Kosher obviously is so important in the Jewish world, right? And again, this is not a class about kashrut, but when we're talking about Jewish values on food, I mean, how can we not at least even just mention kashrut, right? That we have a system built in place for thousands of years that tells us, yeah, this we eat, this we should eat, this we shouldn't eat, right? We're not always told the reasons why. Sometimes they're left in the realm of the unknown and faith and the mystical, okay? But obviously, when we're talking about food, Judaism is so into what we eat through the lens of the laws of kashrut, right? Through the lens of the laws of kashrut. And I think we could say, on some level, not 100%, in my opinion, not I'm going to say this, not in a perfect way. I don't want to say that the system of kashrut is imperfect, but hopefully what I want to say will become clear in just a few moments. I think for most of Jewish history, kashrut was like enough. Kashrut, that's our system. That's how we eat. Bringing consciousness, awareness to my food, I have kosher. I keep kosher, kashrut, right? I connect to that, and that tells me what to eat, how to eat, when to eat, when not to eat something, all these different things, right? It's like a complex system that gives me lots and lots of things to think about, lots and lots of things to follow, keeps me busy all day long when it comes to my food. Until we get to the modern day times, right? Where kosher is great, right? But it seems like it's no longer enough if we really want to bring awareness and consciousness into our eating habits and our food choices. Okay, but kosher, right? That's definitely one of the Jewish values connected to food. We can go to the next slide, please. Big plate of spaghetti, okay? Right. Again, this could be a class in and of itself, and I've taught classes just on this, but the idea of not eating too much, right? Judaism is so into what we eat, again, through the system of kashrut, but Judaism is also very into health. And Judaism is also very into us not eating too much. Again, there's so many sources from Maimonides and others and all different sources in Jewish law that talk about this, that the most important thing for our health, and Maimonides says this, again, along with others, the most important thing for our health is that we don't overeat. Most important thing. Right? It's brought down that even more important than eating healthy food is not eating too much. Right? Because eating too much affects our digestion, and that just has an impact on the rest of our body and the rest of our health and wellness. Okay, so Jewish values around food, again, and there are so many sources. If people want some of these sources, email me. I'd be happy to share them. And just I'm not going to share them in this context. It would make the class too long, but there's so many sources, Jewish sources that have to do with health and wellness in general, and specifically about the importance of how much we eat. Watching, again, not only what we eat, but watching how much we eat. And that's so hard. Let's be honest, all of us. I mean, we all, on some level, probably have like a challenge with that. Oh my God, it's such good spaghetti. I love this sauce. It's so good, Or, oh, this bread is just so yummy with this, whatever I'm eating. I'll have another one, and another piece. Of course, and the desserts and the cakes and the cookies. Right? It's not easy, especially in our modern day world of abundant food, right? That not everyone, unfortunately, in this world experiences, but a lot of us do. All right, so again, just not eating too much, health, being aware of that, that's a super important Jewish value around food. Moving on to the next slide. Connected to that, of course, is eating healthy. And yes, I'm a little bit biased, and I chose a nice vegan salad to share in the slide, right? But eating healthy, making healthy food choices. I mean, I'll just share from my own personal experience. Growing up, I was probably the most unhealthy eater, anyone had ever seen. Literally, I never ate any of these foods in this picture. I'm not even kidding. Literally, very unhealthy. Lots of sweets, lots of candy, all that kind of stuff. And later in life, when I got to college, I started to realize, wait a minute, like, what am I doing? How am I eating? I thought about a lot of things that first year in college. But around my food, I thought about the impact on my health and the impact on animals. And that's when I made radical changes to the way I eat. And thank God I've kept that until today and always trying to improve on that. So this is a typical lunch for me today, right? Back in the day, if I ate a salad, it would have been iceberg lettuce with lots of Russian dressing poured all over it so I don't taste the lettuce. That was like the only vegetable I ate. But anyway, it's a Jewish value, obviously, clearly eating healthy. And again, that could be a whole class in and of itself, lots of sources in the Jewish tradition having to do with health. Again, if you want some of those, email me. I'll be happy to share them with you. But then the next one, and the last one that I want to share, is obviously the most directly connected to our topic at hand. And that's Tzar B'Lechaim. Not only Jewish value, the Jewish law, the Jewish Torah law, one of the 613 commandments, not causing unnecessary pain and suffering to animals. All right. And I don't need to spell it out to people here. Now, what's happening in our modern day food industry is causing unbelievable and never before seen levels and amounts of pain and suffering to animals worldwide. The numbers are staggering. I've seen 50 billion, 70 billion, even more animals killed every single year for human consumption in 1 year. 1 year. Right? That's up to 10 times as many humans there are on the planet. 8, 9, 10 times, whatever the numbers are. Right? Every single year. And of course, most of them are being raised. I saw a statistic that in America, I think it is, 99% of the foods that come from animals, meat, dairy, and eggs that people eat comes from factory farms. 99%. Okay, the numbers are staggering. Right, so what most people are eating today is directly causing unnecessary pain and suffering to animals. The conditions that they're raised in, right? The things that are done to them, the way that they're treated. Okay, forget about the killing. In Judaism, the killing is okay. Right? We can't. I'm not even talking about that. Right? That's a personal opinion. Do you think it's okay to kill animals for food? Not okay to kill animals for food. Judaism says you're allowed. Now, again, that's a whole other topic in discussion. That many sources say that it's allowed, but it's not ideal. That even the permission to eat animals that was given after the flood in the generation of Noah was a concession. Right? It was a concession, right? Because the original diet, obviously, going back to Genesis chapter 1, was a plant-based diet for all of humanity and lasted for many, 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 many centuries. Right? And many sources say that the only reason that animals were now permitted to be used for food was because of the lower spiritual and moral level that humanity had reached. Again, a whole other conversation for another time. But when we talk about Jewish values around food, we can't hide from this today. Again, in the past, I remember my grandparents grew up in a little shtetl in Poland. And towards the end of my grandmother's life, I had the amazing opportunity to sit with her and ask her all kinds of questions about those 20 plus years that she lived in Poland in that shtetl before she moved to Canada and then to America before World War II. And one of the things I asked her, I was already vegan at the time, one of the things I asked her was, did you have veal? And I was just like thinking of all kinds of questions to ask, you know? So one day I asked her, like, did you guys eat veal? And she said, yeah. I'm like, how do you guys get veal? She said, well, we just went out to the field and chose a small calf that was running around and we slaughtered it. And I tried to explain to her today what veal is. And she just couldn't, like literally couldn't. She did not have the ability to fathom, to understand, to believe even where veal comes from today and the way that veal calves are treated today and how they're raised in order to get veal. Right? The world has radically changed so much in such a short period of time. All right. So again, there's so many examples. I mean, we could talk about this for hours. I'll just give one more example. Recently, a couple of months ago, I was talking to somebody, an amazing individual, like one of those people you meet, you're like, wow, if more people were like this in the world, wow, our world would be a better place. And she was sharing with me, talking about what we eat, diet. She's asking questions. She's like, I'm mostly vegan, but I also eat eggs. And I say this with no judgment. Please, 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 please. You don't know me. I don't know you. I'm not judging anybody for any food choices they make. I'm just talking about these things, right? Each person has to decide for, him or herself, like how they eat, what they eat, why they eat, all that kind of stuff. But she was sharing with me that, she eats only organic eggs, that are, free range. Right. So I asked her, I'm like, what company, do you know the name of the company that you buy from? And she said, yeah. And she sent it to me. So I looked up the company and I went on their website and I did some digging on their website and I found, which I knew I was going to find, because call kavod to them, good to them that they were open and honest and transparent about it. But they had a frequently asked questions section on their website. And one of the questions I was asked was like, do you guys kill male chicks when they're born, since they can't be used for eggs? And so they had a whole kind of answer to it, where they said, well, we just buy the chicks, that produce our eggs from a hatchery. But in the hatchery, yes, that's what they do. Right? I just saw a question flashed on the screen. I personally don't eat honey. No, I don't. So they were saying, yeah, in the hatchery that gives us our eggs, our chicks, female chicks, that make our eggs, yes, they kill all male chicks immediately upon birth, because obviously they can't be used in the egg industry and they cannot be transferred over to the chicken used for meat industry either, right? So I shared that with this person I was speaking to, and she was shocked. She didn't know. You see organic, free range, happy chickens, happy hens, all that stuff. That's great. I'm doing the best I could, right? But at the same time, that decision was supporting a behind the scenes industry that's killing every single male chick that's born every single day, right? Because in the eyes of the industry, they're worthless, right? Anyways, lots of examples that can be brought up about that. I want to move on though. Do I have another slide after this? Yes, oh good, okay. Let's go back to what we were talking about before. That this time of Elul, leading up to Rosh Hashanah, preparing us for Rosh Hashanah, is a time of two. Is a time of working on ourselves, a time of self-reflection, a time of being honest with ourselves, a time with seeing ourselves more and more and more. And this beautiful quote from Rabbi Avram Yitzchak Cohen Cook, whose yahrzeit was just today. In America, it's still happening actually as we speak. He died in 1935, born in 1865. He was the first chief rabbi of pre-state Israel. He was a visionary, he was a mystic, he was a poet, he was a writer, he was a teacher, he was a leader, he was so many things. He wrote about so many things that other people either couldn't write about or teach about or talk about, or were too afraid to, right? And one of the things he wrote about, he did tons and tons of writing, and only after his death did his students start to organize what he wrote into sections and themes and books and all this stuff. But he just wrote and wrote and wrote in notebooks. He had all these notebooks. And one of the things that he wrote, scattered throughout his notebooks, was about animal welfare, compassion for animals, right? The original plant-based diet. And one of his students, actually his main student, was known as David Cohen, Nazir. He organized those teachings into chover, basically like a booklet, and he called it A Vision of Vegetarianism and Peace. It's an amazing thing. You can find it online, free in Hebrew and English. It's unbelievable. If you haven't seen it before, you have to see it. It's unbelievable. Anyway, Rav Kook, as he's known, wrote about a lot of other things as well, and he wrote a ton about tshuva, which again, before we translated as repentance, but he goes so much deeper than that. This is just one little snippet of what he wrote about tshuva. And he writes like this: when we forget the essence of our own soul, everything becomes confused and in doubt. The primary tshuva, that which immediately lights the darkness, is when a person returns to himself, to the root of his soul. That's one of his definitions of tshuva, which makes a lot of sense because in Hebrew, the word tshuva comes from the word for returning. Right? Again, in English, we say repentance, but linguistically in Hebrew, it has nothing to do with repentance. Right? It has everything to do with returning. So this month of Elul, that leads up to Rosh Hashanah, is all about returning, us returning to our truest selves, our best selves, our original selves, right? Who we are meant to be, right? Before we veered off the track and everything became confused and in doubt, like he says. That's really the spiritual work of this time. And when we take that and combine it with awareness of our food choices, wow, we have an unbelievable opportunity and ability to improve ourselves, fix ourselves, work towards the perfection of ourselves, and all of that with the world, right? Reconnecting ourselves to our original selves, recentering ourselves, realigning ourselves, returning, so to speak, to the best version of ourselves, right? And that's the realignment that's happening during this time, or it could be happening. And specifically when it comes to our food choices, when we realign our food choices with Jewish values of compassion, of care, of concern, again, like I said before, kosher is not enough anymore. I can't just look at a food and say, oh, it's got a kosher symbol that I know and trust. Then all good. No, unfortunately, I wish it was like that still, but it's not. Because if I go and track it down to where it came from, and if that food includes animals, and I go back to the place where the animals were raised and I see how they were raised and how they were treated, it's got to become clear to me, at least in 99% of the times, right, according to that statistic, that something utterly wrong is happening and against Jewish values and even against Jewish law. Sar Balachayim, like we mentioned before, the Jewish law, the Torah law, the commandment of not causing unnecessary pain and suffering to animals, is just as important as the laws of kosher. You can't say one commandment is more important than the other. If they're a commandment, they're a commandment. And they're all equally important. Right? So I can't say, oh, but it's kosher, it's got a kosher certificate on it. No, but we have to ask, but what about? What about the impact on my health? What about the impact on other humans? What about the impact on animals? What about the impact on the earth? Okay? So really this time is about returning to our roots, returning to our source, our origins, our beginnings. And I think the last slide is the next slide. Remember correctly? It fits in really well with, the vision of Shamayim, the vision of the Jewish environmental movement, the vision of the Jewish vegetarian vegan movement, the verse that we mentioned before in the first chapter of the book of Genesis, verse 29, where it says, God said, see, I give you every seed-bearing plant that is upon all the earth, and every tree that has seed-bearing fruit, they shall be yours for food. What did we just say again? Returning to our roots, returning to our source, our origins, our beginnings. When it comes to food and food choices, this is the beginning. It doesn't get more beginning than this. That's the first thing God said when it came to food and humans was, I want you to eat a plant-based diet. You don't even have permission to eat animals. And again, that only came 1,600 years in the chronology of the Torah and the generation of Noah after the flood. The permission to eat meat for very specific reasons, like we hinted at before. So just kind of bringing all this together, this realignment of our food choices with Jewish values and returning, really getting to the essence of tshuva, of returning, then it's right here in Genesis 1:29. Returning to the original plan, right? Realizing that, yes, we have permission to eat animals in Judaism, but we don't have permission to cause unnecessary pain or suffering to animals. And yet, and also on top of all that, knowing that still there's an ideal. The ideal was given to us at the very, very beginning. The ideal still exists, not only as an option, right, but I would even say today as an obligation. If we're really going to align our Jewish values, our food choices with Jewish values, right? And again, to say it one more time, to make sure that our food choices are a reflection of our ancient Jewish teachings and values and laws, specifically when it comes to the impact of our food choices on our own health, on the lives of other humans, the lives of animals, and the health of the planet. So thank you everyone so much for tuning in, again, whether live, Zoom, Facebook, or listening or watching afterwards recorded. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to be here and to share this class with you and for you. And I'll turn it over to Emma. And thank you so much for helping out Emma with the slideshow.